It's more into the process and tools that each of us can hopefully utilize in our own lives, particularly for you or anyone who's going to tune in and say, oh, I recognize that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an aberration. To engineer more green lights, find that science so we can get better at the art of living.
Man, I cannot wait for this event. We're going to talk a little bit about this in a minute, you guys, but just remember this, emliving.com. You just want to participate, trust me, because you don't get, it's really rare. I'm so excited you've done this and decided to step in even deeper than the book for this reason. Personal development, self-help, a lot of times is sort of loaded with a lot of theory.
Yep.
And I love theories. I've lived off a lot of these theories, but there's something powerful when someone's applied something in their life that gives it credibility that it otherwise might not have, because you can back it with a story or a fact or an anecdote. And that this industry is sometimes polluted to some extent with a lot of theoretical stuff that hasn't been proven in someone's real life. And you've done this in your real life. And one of the things you talk about with these green lights, or even just having something happen, that you and I are both Christians, but we also believe in energy and vibration and frequency and all that stuff. And I think when you're in that flow, that green light mode, there's a vibration to you. There's an energy to you that these things are sort of drawn your way, and you are in that flow state. And there's something so profound you said in the book about this story where you're living with this producer, and he basically, you tell him, hey, I got to get an agent. I got to get an agent. So you're kind of like chasing the green light. And he said, hey, man, you need it. And you paint this amazing distinction, because I know it's been true in my life, between need and want, and why need is not a real good space to be in. So if you tell them the story and then the lesson learned from it, it's awesome.
Yeah. I get out to Hollywood with a couple $1,000 in my pocket. I got a movie out, Dazed and Confused, which is really the only resume I have. It's enough to get me in a few doors, but it's not enough to be a lead pipe cinch. Oh, but I need an agent. I'm in Hollywood. I'm sleeping on this guy's couch, Don Phillips, the guy I met in a bar in Austin, who gave me the chance to go audition for Dazed and Confused over a year earlier. I'm on his couch. My money's now into the 3 digits. I'm below $1,000. I'm starting to get a little like, I've been there a few weeks. I'm like, hey, I need, can you give me an agent meeting? And he snapped at me. Not there. You need it too much. This industry, Hollywood, smells need. You're one and done, buddy. What you need to do is get the hell out of here. Go with your buddies and go ride motorcycles somewhere. Hell, pick Europe. I don't care. But go somewhere till you quit needing it so much, because if Hollywood smells you needing it, you're done. You're never in. And I did. I put on a backpack with my $800, and I went off with my 2 good buddies, Rory Cochran and Go Osmond. We rode motorcycles through Europe. I came back. I wasn't even thinking about an agent. I was what he called, now you're cool again. Now you're cool. And I was rolling along, and he's about a week later, after I returned, we're sitting there at dinner. He always made filet mignon and then had a scoop of Haagen-Dazs ice cream for dessert. Oh, he's done. He's since moved on. I love talking about him. And he goes, you're ready. And I go, for what? And he goes, tomorrow morning, we got a meeting, William Morris. You're going to go down. And I was like, oh, cool. Now, 5 weeks earlier, if he said that, I'd have been like, okay, good, man. I got this. Okay, I need that. I would have gone into the meeting. They would have smelt my need. They would have felt my need. I'd have leaned outside of myself. I would have oversold myself and probably dorked out and used too many words and not have been myself and over-leveraged myself. And they'd have been like, I'm not sure this guy's really, he's kind of wants it too much, needs it too much. And instead I went in, believed in myself, had a presence about me, didn't oversell myself, but really let them know, no, I actually think you need me as an agent. And that made me a more valuable asset to them. I got an agent, and then, damn it, if I had my first 2 auditions in Hollywood from that agent, I got the job.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Don't you think, like, I think that's a Hollywood story, but it's not. Like, if you're having a hard time finding the relationship that you want, everybody's been on that date with that person that just seems to need it a little too much. Or the salesperson, like, man, everything's good, and your need to sell me is getting in the way of me buying it from you.
We can smell the solicit.
Yes.
And nobody likes the smell. We all love a good salesman. But it's like the difference between a bullshitter and a liar. A bullshitter at least kind of winks at you. while they're telling the tale to let you know, hey, just go with me. And there's something that adorable about that, right?
Yes, yes.
You see someone that needs, and this goes for my love story with my wife Camilla.
Mhm.
When I met her, when I saw her move across the room that night, I had just come to a place spiritually where I was like, you know what, Matthew? Your dream is to be a father. You may not get married. You may have kids. Now, something about that dream and my relationship with God, there was a grace of God saying, that's okay if that happens. So for the first time in my life, I was like, it's not ideal, but I will be okay with that spiritually. And as soon as that happened, I went from this, looking for her at every damn red light, in the produce section, everybody I met, maybe. I was hunting, I was needing, I was looking for that mate. Wasn't near as attractive. As soon as it came to me that, like, you may not meet her, and can you be okay with that with yourself, Matthew, and spiritually? And as soon as I was okay with that, I had a presence. I was now able to receive love from somebody. I was able to see somebody, and they let them see me. And that's when she showed up. That's when she came into my life. When I quit hunting, when I quit rubbernecking at every red light, looking like maybe the car next to me, maybe that's her.
Yep. I got to tell you, it's one of those really invisible, subtle things that most people don't have any appreciation for, is what he's telling you right now, everybody. I'm telling you right now, that need thing is repelling. There's some type of energy that just, it doesn't work. I'm curious about you, though, because you're a pretty good looking man, number one, and you've had some notoriety. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, and a little bit of financial success in your life as well. And so it's interesting to me that you were looking like that when you have all the options in the world, number one. But number two, that it seems to me, brother, that family, your marriage and your children are such a giant priority from you. And this is something I wanted to ask you. It's really not a lot there's parts of this in the book, but there's something I wanted to know about you, because a lot of times what we see in our life, we end up modeling. So I'm reading about you and I'm like, whoa, this dude grew up in I'm sure it was a loving family, but it is an interesting damn family you grew up in. Yeah. Am I right that your parents were married 3 times?
Married 3 times, divorced twice.
Did y'all just hear that right now? So it's been pretty easy for you to kind of model. I assume that meant there was some chaos happening.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right. So yes. Like, share a little bit of that. And then are you like conscious of being the antithesis of that? And because I think that's an important thing in life. Like my dad was an alcoholic. My dad got sober. My dad was an alcoholic though. And there's a lot of chaos in my life. And I remember when I started to have a family, like I want peace in our home. We're going to talk a little bit in a while about joy, because I love that word you use, but I was conscious of sort of trying to create that which didn't exist in my home. Were you?
Good question, because I don't ever remember consciously thinking I want to push away from that. And remind me to come back to this line, because I want to tell you a story about my mother and why my mother was such a good mother.
Okay.
She had a stepmother who was horrific. Not one bit of good mother. My mom didn't know how to be a mom. All she did is goes, I want to be the opposite of that. And she became a great mom. Now, I didn't consciously ever think, oh, I don't want to do it how mom and dad did. I did say, I'm not looking for that many tidal waves. I'd like a little bit smoother running stream in my relationship. My mom, to this day, if you're having a civil, cool conversation where all voices are nice and low and everyone's kumbaya and getting along, 15 minutes of that will bore my mama. My mama will throw a wrench in the situation just to, hey, let's spice it up. Huh? She's still that way, and she's 91. That was her and my dad's relationship. They were physical, divorced twice, married 3 times. What I took from that was, hey, guess what? Love won 3-2. That's what I got from it. And I took from it, I don't need to get divorced and married twice for love to win. I want to like to get married once, and let's roll with that. And do my mom and dad, I'm much more, if I have to raise my voice, I immediately have a trigger goes off in my mind that says, McConaughey, what did you not handle for it to get to this point? Now, my mom and dad raised their voice a couple times a week. And that was just part of the conversation. It was like, the stereotype of Italians. It was always big and hands and hey, big and loud. And that's just how they communicated. And my mom to this day would say, no, that's what I needed to communicate. There were no regrets. So we never had a question if we were loved. I never had a question if my mom loved my dad loved my mom. I did say, I'm not looking for that rocky of a road.
Yeah.
I'd rather not. And fortunately, Camilla was someone who was not looking for that either. And little known fact, Camilla's parents, my wife now, were married twice, divorced 3 times.
Come on, man.
They ended up on the divorce side.
What are the odds of that, though? Like, couples usually don't get married more than one time. Then one marriage between the two of you, there's 4?
5 marriages and 5 divorces.
The same married couple. That's bananas. That is literally bananas. What did you wanted to say something about your mom being a good mom? You wanted to make sure you made a reference to that.
Well, that was it. That she learned, we, again, process of elimination, what we started off talking about.
Yeah.
It's not always what you go to affirmatively and play offense. It's a lot of times, what are we pushing against in defense to get our identity? My mom eliminated, I don't know how to be a mom, but I know I want to be the opposite of that lady who raised me, is what she said, who was a non grata mom. And so to this day, my mom didn't know what to do. She just said, I'm doing the opposite of how her mom treated her. And that turned out to be being a great mom.
Do you think that, I was reading your stuff and I'm like, because I talk a lot about happiness. In fact, my podcast that's out today is about happiness. This Harvard study, longest study in the history of mankind, 85-year study. They took 1,000 privileged kids from Harvard University, 1,000 young boys, same age from South Boston, underprivileged families, and they studied them for 85 years. A fascinating study about who ended up happier and, who lived longer and whose well-being and what made them happy. Actually, one of the kids in the study was JFK. No joke. It's an amazing, amazing study. It's worth listening to. However, it's around happiness. And you make this distinction. This is why your work, it's really unique. You make this distinction between joy and happiness. Right. And I have never heard this before in my life. To me, they've sort of been very similar things, but you correlate happiness almost to like, we get happiness if we done something, whereas joy can be present at any time. Talk about that for a second. This is awesome.
So happiness, as most of us are taught, or as most of us see it, myself included, is result oriented. If then. If I get this, then I will be happy. If I reach this goal, then I will be happy. It's almost like a ta-da moment. If I get enlightened and spiritually, then I will be namaste, whatever it is. And over in my own life and from other mentors and wise men and women in the world, there's no ta-da moment. There's no hill that you get to the top of and you go, finally, I did it. Because what do you see? Once you get to the top, 1,000 other hills or another one that's taller that you're like, so you immediately upgrade your iOS of happiness and you project it into the future again for another hill to climb. So it's a moving target that you're constantly chasing. Now I'm all for the chase and the setting of goals to go reach and the writing of headlines early to tell your story towards that. But what I've noticed is joy is more the verb. Joy is the doing of what we're fashioned to do and enjoying the process of the doing. And if we can get out of our mind that there is a finish line and just enjoy the race and chase ourselves in this race and go, the best we can do is get to the end of this life and say, look back and go, well, I didn't make it to the top, but how many stairs did I ascend? Or how wide did my stairs reach? Or how deep did my roots grow? Just tally it up. Hopefully we're in the black. Hopefully we're in the asset. And if there's life after this, hopefully the prime mover's going, well done. But I mean, I think that's as good as it gets. It's my problem with extra credit today. 4.2 GPAs and participation trophies. No, 100, the top is as good as it gets. There's no such thing as 110%. Maybe we ought to bring back D's in school. You know what I mean? It's like,
You're right.
if we can make a B plus in this life, that's damn good. Or if we can get, but we're never going to get perfection. We're never going to reach 100. We're never going to reach the top of that staircase. And that is what we call happiness, that we keep bumping forward. But if we can enjoy the process along the way, I find that you don't reach lower levels than if you just chased happiness. You actually reach the same levels or more, and you had a pretty damn good time on the way.
So true. I got to tell you, man, that is wisdom. I think I figured out a version of that, but I'm 52 next month. It took me till my 40s. And I'm like, wow, this finish line keeps freaking moving. It keeps moving. Like, no, once I've got this, or once I got a jet, or I'm living at the beach, or I've got this award, or this many people know me. And it kept moving. And I'm like, this is insane. And to your point, when I started to give myself the gift of, I thought, man, if I don't keep moving the finish line, I'm going to lose my drive. So this thing, even though it hasn't brought me a lot of bliss in my life, it sure keeps me driven and hungry.
Yeah.
And if I let go of this finish line mentality, when I get there thing, I'll lose my drive and ambition. And to your point, I couldn't have been more wrong, because when I started to give myself the gift of joy in my home, in my life, in my emotions on a daily basis, I actually found I had more energy to pursue the achievements that I want in my life. And I wasn't so damn tired every time I finally got to one of these artificial finish lines.
Amen. And you know, I hear you on your 40s. 40s were a great customizing decade for me too, where I actually learned to trust. Hey, buddy, if you quit pursuing that actual result, you're not going to lose your work ethic. You're not going to lose your drive. You're not going to lose your want to. It's just going to be more natural through the day. It'll actually be more instinctual. And as you say, you don't reach it and go, oh. You kind of get up there and you're kind of going, oh, is this it? It's the old what's the best round of golf you play? Say you're 10 handicap and you're 5 over on 16 tee box. You're gonna shoot a better round if you don't look at the scorecard.
It's so true.
When you're walking off of 18 green, heading towards the next tee box, and someone has to remind you, no, dude, round's over. Yes. You know, I found it in my career. When I started, I had a little 6-year run there. And even with Dallas Buyers Club, I was not chasing result. I was like, F the results, man. My head's down in the process and let the results be. I got more results when I quit chasing the result. I didn't lose my drive. I worked as hard. Definitely worked smarter. There's a great example in that Jared Leto, who won Academy for Best Supporting Actor in that. Guess when he and I met?
Where?
Wrap of shooting on the set, the last day. That's a wrap. He was the character. I was Ron. He was Rayon. When we said hello as Ron and Rayon when we met 2 weeks before we started filming. We filmed for 5 weeks. All of a sudden, they yelled wrap that night. And he and I looked at the idea and said, okay, see you tomorrow. And the AD was like, no, that's a film wrap. There is no tomorrow. Wow. And I stopped and looked over, and Jared stopped and looked at me, and I walked up and I went, McConaughey. And he goes, Jared, nice to meet you.
Come on.
We're both just head down in the process.
So not only are you separating from what the outcome is, you separate from a lot of different things. That is bananas. So you separate from outcome and kind of like giving a crap about what they think also, like that's a really hard thing for most people in our culture today, where everything is supposed to be validated. Did this post get a like? Did it not get a like? Did it, this obsession almost with what people are thinking about. I actually think the result obsession is a what people think about me obsession. Like, I work with some PGA guys and their fear of missing a putt. And I'm like, you're not really afraid of missing the putt. You're not even afraid of losing the tournament. You're actually afraid of what people are going to think about the fact that you missed this putt that you're supposed to be making. This obsession with what are they going to think, I think also causes us to hyper focus on the result because we want them to think good things about us.
Society has us living in the third person. We're all running. We're pulling Leon Letts in the Super Bowl. We're returning the kickoff for a touchdown, looking at the Jumbotron at the 50, wondering if we're going to make it on SportsCenter Best Plays. And that's just when we get tackled from behind. When we quit behaving and just doing the behavior of the process and taking the action that we're doing. Look, when I'm doing it, and I think when most people are doing it and in the joy of the process and head down, it's a vacation because it's solely subjective. It is, I'm on an island. It is literally a vacation to have a singular obsession when you're doing that thing. Now, I understand it's a privilege. I have a wife who, when I go out the door every day to work, she tells me, I got the kids, don't look over your shoulder, go kick ass. That's a privilege. I understand that. But when we're taking an action, we have to do it, or to do it with pleasure and enjoy and stay in the present of the action. The joy is if you bump the finish line almost to an unreachable place. If you bump it, Bo Jackson didn't just run across the goal line. He ran across the goal line and through the tunnel. You know what I mean? Snipers don't aim at the target. They aim on the other side. Therefore, you never choke when you're on the goal line, so to speak, because you're like, no, the finish line's way down there. And all of a sudden, someone has to tell you, no, you crossed the goal line, you scored. You're like, oh, I did? I thought we had to go another 40 yards.
Now you're on to something right there, brother. That's that whole concept that when they wrap shooting, you're like, we're wrapped?
Right. I'm coming back tomorrow. Yeah.
I got to tell you, I think what it gives you maybe is freedom. I think it's a freedom when you're totally immersed in a process and not so concerned about results or outcomes. It creates a freedom. And then that science, you can actually navigate in an art form when you're in it. I think that allows the art to sort of take over the energy, the whatever it is, when you're totally free. By the way, are you guys getting this? This is stuff that you don't hear everywhere, really anywhere. And look, you're on my show. One of my jobs is to say, let me promote, but I got to tell you something right now as we're talking. I'm like, I really want to be a part of this event you're doing. Like, I really do. Right on. So it's April 24th. They go to emlivin, LIVIN.com, emlivin.com. What are you doing on the 24th? And then we'll get back into stuff here. But
so 9 a.m. April 24th, myself, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Trent Shelton, and Mary Forleo. We're going to get under the hood of some of the stuff we've been talking about. Tony and Dean came to me and said that he really appreciated the approach book that, as I call it, what Green Lights is. Yep. Maybe like, look, would you like to dig deeper and start defining a process, create tools that we can share, that can be transformative for people and individuals in their own lives, make it even more personal so people can apply it in their own lives. So I was like, damn right I would. And so that's what we're going to be getting under the hood of on the 24th. And, as I said, it's a science of satisfaction, I believe, leads to the art of living. It's like knowledge and wisdom. The art of living is up to each of us individually. You talked about earlier. Sometimes it's theories. I'm not interested in Hallmark cards and pep rallies, because what do? They last maybe a day or two, and that's it.
That's right.
But I really think we're going to be able to share some tools that, with some introspection and a little effort, can be proven to work in your life, not just mine. And another thing I want to say is, I'm not making straight A's on all this stuff either. I love that. I'm working on it. And we all know if we're trying to get better and trying to be more ourselves, we got job security. You know what I mean?
That's so good. That is so good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I got to tell you something. You're not making straight A's, but you actually know what the report card looks like. And that's one of the things. Just give you an example. Because I got to tell you something. It made me feel better that I learned that there was a science and an art behind your achievement. I think a lot of times, even in my own case in business, there's a part of it. Like, obviously, you're an amazingly hardworking, gifted actor, but God gave you some good looks, gave you this swagger, gave you this amazing voice. There's certain things you got, right? And I think it's easy when you watch, even for me. So I'm like, yeah, I got a little bit of got a little lucky. And I'm not saying there isn't blessing and luck involved in life. But then when I started to read about your work and I read the book and I'm listening to your stuff and I'm preparing for the interview, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. This is a man who's lived a very intentional existence. Very intentional existence. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But not only are you not getting straight A's, neither am I, by the way, but I kind of have a concept of how I grade myself. And you've come up, just to give you an idea of everybody, what'll happen on the 24th, when you just listen to this one little thing. You kind of have like 5 areas you grade yourself on, like almost every single day, right? Do you remember what those are? The 5 areas, or I think there's 5, like different things.
So there's career, health, family, relation with God, and was it husbandry and fatherhood? Friends, right. So I'm checking in on my credits and debits. I'm trying to keep the 5 in the black. And we all know that, man, when our career's really cruising, the old fatherhood and husbandry can start slipping into the red. Friendships can kind of go into the debit section. I don't see a way to keep them all at peak condition. Yeah. But it's just, again, checking. Don't let one of them drop too low into the red. Go tend that garden and pull. Some weeds on that one that's dropping into the red, even though you don't think you have time sometimes. And I got to get better. I've faltered on friendships, I think, mostly in probably the last 10 years. That's understandable with the family and stuff. Most of my friends understand, but I could have been a better friend, and I can be a better friend. You know, I have to watch careers rolling and I'm jamming and I'm just like, let's go. I got to check in with my health. Got to make sure that I'm keeping my mind, my body, my spirit healthy. And make sure I'm reminding myself, and especially when things are rolling well, remember to bend the knee, McConaughey, and say some thank you and be number 2 and look around and appreciate what you got in your life. Family, you know, sometimes you get kids and the life becomes about the kids. And guess who the kids wouldn't be here without? Their mama. Wife. Got to work on the husbandry stuff. Yeah, damn it. Forgot about that. A date. I thought we were all just kids because the kids need us, but I didn't think you did. Oh yeah, you do too. I need you too. We got to check in. Sometimes the kids are going great, and the relationship with the spouse isn't going as well. So it's trying to keep all of those in the black, or at least not letting any of them get too low into the red.
I love that analogy. And here's what it is. It's like, just if you don't have some kind of system or process to which you check these things, you do. You know, interesting. When I heard that piece of content from you, I've asked that question to a lot of my. I just did an interview I just completed with Mauricio Yamansky, who runs a big real estate office called The Agency. His wife's Kyle Richards from the Beverly Hills House-wise. Anyway, and I asked him about those 5 areas, and it's interesting. He said, yeah, probably friendships have slipped the most. And in my case, definitely friendships are the thing that slipped the most. And sounds like that in your case as well. But just to have a report card where I'm like, hey, it's slipping. Let me send some messages to my buddies. Maybe let's schedule a trip. Let's do something. Let's just not just maintain things, but make sure that I'm actually adding deposits to these accounts, so to speak. Not always just making withdrawals all the time.
And you know what a good tip is? It's a simple one that has done wonders. And and I had a friend remind me of this 2 years ago. And it goes back to that earlier thing about not needing, not always soliciting. It's so easy to do. Just send a, hey, think about you. How you doing? To a friend. You don't, because when do we usually call those ones we hadn't called in a while? When we need something.
We need it.
Right? Yeah. But just sit, and they call back, go, yeah, everything's good. What do you need? Nothing, man. Just checking. That goes so far. Oh, it goes, and I know it because I've received some of those from my friends that are going, no, I didn't need nothing. I'm just checking on you. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Next, you're still there.
The one little thing I've been doing, and that, by the way, that's better. But one little thing I do instead of texting, and I'm doing that exact thing. I'll do in the morning. I do 5 of these. I do it once a week. I wasn't doing it every day, and there's some things you put up a system in place. You're like, I can't maintain this every day. You know what I mean? So I try to do things now like I can maintain. So it's Mondays, but every Monday, and I'm pretty good about this now. Mondays I do 5 little videos to my friends and say, hey man,